onions. Today I am planting onions, staple of Western cooking, well, European cooking, all around delicious, kind of useless in my house because my mum doesn't eat them, but I'm still going to grow them. There's two main ways to grow onions in your garden. The first is onion sets. They come in a bag like this, and they're basically little onions that have been grown commercially and then prematurely harvested and dried, so they've gone dormant. They will then sprout like this one is doing. They will sprout and then form bigger onions. So they're a good way to get a head start on your onions. The other option is seeds. Seeds are usually a bit cheaper, but they do take a lot longer to get your onions going. The third way that some people do, and I've never done this so I can't really recommend it, is when you're cooking your onions, you take your bottom, which has the roots on, and you replant that and green shoots will come up from that. But you have to be aware that sometimes if you're reusing commercial plants like this in your garden, you might be introducing pests and diseases into your garden. There could be allium rust spores or other diseases on commercial onions that you're then bringing onto your allotment or into your home kitchen garden. My preferred method is seeds. I find that sets sometimes get dug up by squirrels or rats and chewed, so I go with seeds because they're affordable and you can get a good range. The allium family, which onions are a part of, also includes leeks, chives and garlic. So I am planting a few of those today, although not garlic. I planted my garlic in autumn. I like to grow alliums in seed trays rather than in individual pots, although I'll be doing the chives in pots so that they form a nice little clump which I can then give away to friends. But for onions and leeks, I'm going to grow them in reused food trays. So this has just had mushrooms in it. You don't have to actually poke holes in the bottom as long as you're careful with your watering and you don't let it get too waterlogged. It should be fine. So let's get started. As I usually do, I've pre-mixed my compost with water so that I don't have to worry about all my seeds getting moved around if I watered them in the tray. Although they're all the same family, I do have slightly different methods of planting for each of my alliums. For main crop onions and leeks, I try to plant in small rows with the seeds separate. Like this. So the seeds are quite small, they're black, they look very similar all across the families. And then for leeks, onions, main crop onions, I'm just kind of spacing things out about 2 centimeters and doing like little rows. This will make it easier to separate the plants later when I'm ready to plant them out. Because our compost is pre-dampened, we don't have to worry about the watering messing everything up. It doesn't have to be perfect, and sometimes you will get more than one seed caught in your finger and they'll ping everywhere. This is the way I like to do it for main crop onions and leeks. And as always, we don't forget our label. This one is Leon Leek. It's a very popular variety. So just pop that in there. Then for spring onions, this variety is Ramrod. And it's a spring onion or a green onion or a scallion, depending on where you're from. With them, I don't worry so much about them being spaced out because you can plant them in nice little clumps and have clumps of spring onions anywhere. All of these can also be planted directly. You don't have to sow them indoors or sow them in trays and then prick them out. If I was smart, I would have started these and my onions off in January, but I didn't get around to it. So instead, I'm starting them now at the beginning of March. But yeah, you can sow indoors or out, and you can sow directly. I do find that actually onions are some of the most slug resistant plants you can grow. In fact, leeks were the first successful thing I grew in my parents' garden when I was 13 years old. Before that, everything else I'd ever grown had been slugged to death. Lastly, for chives, I'm doing garlic chives today. I'm doing them in clumps in individual pots. This is so I can give them away to neighbours or sell them on Gumtree on Facebook Marketplace by donation, because I don't need a huge quantity of garlic chives. One of the lovely things about alliums, chives, garlic, onions, leeks, is that if they go to flower, you can eat the flowers. That's actually true of a lot of things. You can eat brassica flowers too, and courgette flowers you can stuff with cheese and deep fry. They're supposed to be very good. But onion flowers have a wonderful oniony taste, and they're usually a beautiful purple colour, and they just look great in salads. So sometimes it's worth leaving a few to go to seed. Then lastly, on seeding, I just take some of the compost out of the bag, the dry compost. It's not really dry, it's slightly damp, but it's not the one I've mixed with water, and I just sprinkle lightly on top. So onions work fantastically as companion plants in the garden. If you plant them next to carrots, they'll deter carrot fly. They're said to help deter a lot of the things that can harm your brassicas. That's your cabbages, cauliflower, broccoli, kale. And some people say they can even keep away rabbits and squirrels from your crops, although I'm not 100% sure about that, because rabbits especially can be very determined. So that's my seed sown up. The only one I've got left to do is my main crop onions, but it's the exact same process as for my leeks. These will be ready to transplant in about a month, so by the start of April, hopefully I'll have these planted outside. I might direct sow some too. Still got these sets to plant out, so I'll be planting them here, there, and around the garden. I might actually encourage them to sort of go feral and have just onion populations knocking around, because the flowers are so beautiful and bees love them, and I like them too. 2 weeks after sowing my onion seed, and here we are. These little seedlings have germinated. So I've got my spring onions coming up. They're so tiny, they almost look like little blades of grass. And there's a couple of leeks coming through as well. You can see there's one there. And these will continue to germinate over the next few days. We've been having a couple of sunny days and it gets nice and warm in the greenhouse. So that's what to look out for when looking to see if your onions have germinated. So if you're planning to grow onions this year, or any member of the allium family, let me know which ones you're going for, and let's share our onion progress together. I love to see what you guys are up to. As always, you can tag me on Instagram at @RuMadeThis. And if you like to support this channel, I have a coffee account where you can drop as little as a £3 donation to help me keep going. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time when hopefully I'll have some onions to show you. Take care. Bye.